Thanksgiving always creeps up on me in Minnesota, right when the sun starts setting before I even leave work and the wind at the bus stop cuts sharper than last week. The calendar on my phone flashes late October, but I'm already measuring time by how many mugs of tea I get through after my warehouse shift, and by how many leaves are still clinging to the trees outside my apartment window. I drop my bag onto the chair, kick off my boots, and let myself sink into the little cocoon I've carved out in this old Minneapolis building. My apartment is nothing special, but it's mine: 2 rooms, wood floors that creak, a thrifted armchair by the window, and a bookshelf that sags under the weight of paperbacks I can't part with. I put the kettle on, rub the ache out of my lower back, and check my phone. 3 notifications, all family. The first is a text from my mom, a string of gentle words and emojis. Hope work wasn't too hard today, Liv. Don't forget to eat something warm. Miss you. That's my mom, Linda, always caring from afar, always softening the edges. The next is a group chat alert. Madison, my younger sister, has posted another photo to Instagram. This time she's at a coffee shop, working on my candle business. The caption says, next to a lineup of pastel lattes and a laptop. The last is a voicemail from my dad. He never texts, just calls, his message is clipped and businesslike. I don't listen to it yet. There's leftover chili in my fridge. I spoon some into a bowl and set it in the microwave, letting the hum fill the quiet. I pour tea, pick up one of my old novels, and settle in as the radiator hisses. Outside, a gray sky presses low over the city, threatening the first snow, but I find comfort in these small routines. They make the loneliness easier to live with. While I eat, my phone lights up again. It's my mom. Did you get enough rest? I send a quick reply, just finished work. Heating up chili. All good here, Mom. She'll probably check in again later, or tomorrow. She never lets too many hours go by without reaching out, especially as the cold sets in. After dinner, I log onto my laptop and open the payment portal for my parents' heating bill. It's automatic by now. I know the passwords by heart, the account number, the winter rates that always seem to rise faster than my own pay. I click through the steps, confirming another $400 payment. The confirmation screen pops up with a cheery snowflake icon, as if to congratulate me for keeping my parents warm from 100 miles away. I make a mental note to buy cheaper groceries next week, maybe skip the weekend bagels. This is what I do. I adjust, quietly. Mom will never say outright that things are tight, but I remember last winter, the panic in her voice when the furnace clanked to a stop during a cold snap. She never wants to ask, but I never want her to worry. That's our dance. As I'm stacking dishes in the sink, my phone rings again. It's Dad. I hesitate. He never calls just to talk, and he's probably seen the heating bill went through. Still, I answer. Hey, Olivia, he says, always formal, as if we're strangers at a bank. Just checking on the house. Did you get the receipt for the payment? I assure him it's all set, try to keep my tone light. He grunts. Good. We're expecting another cold one this year. You know how it is. He doesn't ask how my day was, or if I'm eating well. Instead, he rattles off a list of small repairs. Front door needs weather stripping, Madison's old room still has a draft. He asks if I could look into it, maybe call the landlord for him. I tell him I'll see what I can do, though I know I'll end up calling during my lunch break tomorrow, squeezing family business between loading shifts and half-warmed coffee. That's how it's always been. Dad trusts me to get things done, but not enough to ask about my own life. After we hang up, I scroll back through the group chat. Madison's latest post already has a dozen likes, her friends leaving heart emojis, little encouragements. She messages me a quick, "Hey Liv. guess what? My new candle batch is almost ready. I type out, "That's great, Maddie. Good luck with the launch." She doesn't reply, but I know she'll expect me to share her post, maybe send her some startup advice. I remember last year at Thanksgiving, Madison at the center of every story, Mom fussing over her, Dad asking about her plans, and me at the head of the kids' table, old enough to pay the bills but not quite old enough to matter. It's funny how you can be in a room full of family, laughter bouncing off the walls, and still feel more alone than sitting by yourself on a Thursday night. Sometimes I think about what it would be like to just show up for Thanksgiving, eat, laugh, leave, no bills, no worries. But that's never been my role. I'm the steady hand, the problem solver. That's what they need from me, even if they never say it. The apartment grows quieter as the night drags on. I wash my cup, set out my work clothes for the next day, and try to let go of the nagging sense of being responsible for everything. I check the weather app. First snow is forecast for this weekend. Madison is already planning her Friendsgiving online, the rest of the family is counting on me to keep the lights on from afar, and I'm here with my leftovers and a stack of overdue library books. Just as I'm about to turn off the lights, my phone rings again. Dad's number. I consider letting it go to voicemail, but pick up. His voice is gruffer than usual. "Olivia, there's something we should talk about," he says. "Thanksgiving might be different this year." He pauses, as if searching for the right words, but none come. "We'll talk tomorrow," he finishes abruptly, and hangs up before I can ask what he means. I stand in the kitchen for a moment, staring at the glowing screen. Outside, the wind rattles the window, and somewhere in the city, the first flakes of snow begin to fall. My dad's "we'll talk tomorrow" message sat on my phone all night, as heavy as the November clouds hanging low outside my window. When the alarm buzzed at 5:45, I reached for the phone out of habit, half hoping for some kind of follow-up. Nothing. Just that one line, cold and unreadable. The city was still dark as I pulled on my thick socks and layered up for the walk to the bus stop. At the warehouse, the break room was a dull course of microwaves and weather talk. My coworkers, bundled in old sweatshirts, were already complaining about frozen windshield wipers and stubborn car batteries. I sat by the window, blowing on instant coffee, trying not to keep checking my phone. I failed, of course. Madison's latest text popped up just as I was clocking in, heading out for a work brunch with my new partner. Manifesting big things for my candles. There was a photo attached, her in a bright scarf, hair perfect, surrounded by maple-glazed donuts and friends in expensive-looking jackets. Sometimes I wondered what it was like to live in Madison's world, where every setback became an Instagram story, every hustle celebrated before it even got off the ground. I tapped out a quick, "hope it goes well," but the message sat there unread. Madison was always busy, always on the verge. Meanwhile, I was on my second year at this warehouse, working overtime when I could, bringing home the steady paychecks that nobody seemed to notice until the furnace broke or the property taxes came due. My mom texted too, checking in about the weather and telling me to stay bundled. She added, "Don't stress too much about Dad, he's just tired." It was classic mom, soft edges, never confronting anyone, forever apologizing for things she didn't control. Lunch came early, the break room humming with the smell of leftover pizza and wet boots. I sat by myself, phone in hand, scrolling through old messages. There was one from Madison in April, "Can you send $200 for my website? I'll pay you back." And another from Dad in January, "Heat's out again. Can you cover the bill this time?" My name wasn't on the deed or the mailbox, but I was the first call for every emergency. My mind slipped into last winter's memory, the call at midnight, my mom whispering that the house was freezing, my dad too stubborn to ask for help. I'd gotten up, shivering in my own apartment, logged onto the utility portal, and transferred $400 with hands that shook more from worry than the cold. I don't know if my parents realized how those moments added up, the skipped dinners out, the thrifted coats, the nights I stayed late for a little extra overtime. Maybe they thought I didn't mind. Maybe I'd let them believe it. The afternoon shift was a blur of boxes and forklifts, my mind half at work and half waiting for that other shoe to drop. When my phone finally rang on break, I ducked out into the stairwell to answer, heart thudding. "Hey, Dad," I said, trying to sound casual. He didn't waste time. "Olivia. Listen, about Thanksgiving, don't come home this year." It was so blunt, I thought I'd misheard. "What? Why?" He sighed, that long, tired sigh that meant the discussion was already decided. "Madison's been on edge lately. She's dealing with a lot. Your mom and I think it's better if we keep things calm this holiday. Less stress for everyone. You understand." There was a hollow ringing in my ears. "So, you don't want me to come home? Because Madison's anxious?" "It's just for 1 year," he said quickly, as if that made it easier. "We all need a little peace. You'll be fine. We can talk after the holiday." "But Dad," my throat tightened. I wanted to ask about all the years I'd quietly kept the lights on, the times I'd fixed things no one else wanted to touch. But he was already moving on, voice colder than the wind that morning. "It's decided, Olivia. I have to go. There's a lot to do. Take care of yourself." The line clicked off. I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, the distant echo of forklift beeps below me. I stared at the faded paint on the stairwell wall, at my own reflection in the glass, and felt something inside me harden. I finished my shift in a fog. The work felt heavier than usual, my arms tired and my mind far away. Nobody noticed. That's the thing about being steady, people rely on you, but they rarely look twice. I watched my coworkers leave for the day, already talking about plans for the long weekend. I had no plans now, just an empty Thursday and a feeling I couldn't name. Back on the bus, my phone buzzed with another photo from Madison. She and her friends were at a boutique pop-up, buying candles and laughing. I couldn't help but compare, her world, light and breezy, and mine, weighed down by responsibility no one seemed to see. Mom texted again, "I wish things were different. Maybe next year, honey. I love you." It was almost enough to make me cry, but not quite. Love, in my family, always seemed to come with a long list of terms and conditions. At home, I tossed my bag in the corner, took off my boots, and found the heating bill receipt on my table. The numbers stared back at me, proof of all the ways I'd tried to hold my family together from afar. Was that all I was to them? A steady hand when the furnace broke, a voice on the phone when someone needed help, a name on the bill? I sat down at my tiny kitchen table and let the silence press in, heavy and cold as the snow starting to fall outside. Maybe family was more like a utility account than I wanted to admit. You pay in, month after month, and hope it's enough to keep the lights on. Tonight, though, I wasn't sure whose warmth I was paying for anymore. The silence in my apartment this week feels heavier than the first snow, the kind that settles on rooftops and doesn't melt until spring. After Dad's call, the world shrank to the small rectangles of my phone screen, each message from my family colder than the chill leaking in through the old window panes. I try to busy myself in the mornings, oatmeal on the stove, cinnamon latte from the corner shop, a half-hearted scroll through the news. The sky outside hangs low and gray, and daylight barely lingers past 4. November in Minneapolis is always cold, but this year, the loneliness feels deeper. The only sounds are the humming of the space heater and the faint clatter from neighbors upstairs. I think about that phone call over and over. It loops in my mind while I fold laundry, while I pack my lunch, while I try to lose myself in an old detective novel. Dad's words, "Don't come home this year," sting more each time I replay them. It isn't about one holiday. It's every little way I've been the backup plan, the safety net. Every time I've stepped in, quietly fixing problems, hoping one day it might matter. My phone buzzes with a text from Tracy. She always checks in when I least expect it. "Hey Liv, you around tonight? Want to grab coffee and vent about life?" I almost say no. I'm tired, I want to disappear into the couch, but something in me says yes. Maybe because Tracy never expects anything from me except honesty. We meet at our favorite cafe, the bell over the door jangling as I walk in. The windows fog with steam, the smell of cinnamon and espresso settling over the chatter of strangers. Tracy is already there, 2 mugs in hand. She slides one across the table. "You look like you need this more than me." I laugh, but it comes out tight. "Rough week. Family stuff." I stir my latte, watching the foam swirl. Tracy doesn't push. She just listens, nodding, letting the silence do some of the work. After a while, I find myself telling her everything, the call, the feeling of being cut out, the way Dad always frames it as peace for Madison. She leans in, her voice gentle. "Liv, when was the last time you put yourself first?" "Really?" I shrug, fiddling with the napkin. She says, "You can't pour from an empty cup. Maybe it's time you filled yours, even if it means letting theirs run dry for once." On the walk home, Tracy's words echo. I pass the corner grocery, the little shops with their holiday lights, and wonder what it would be like to just stop being responsible, stop carrying the weight. But I'm not sure I know how. Back in my apartment, I set my pizza in the oven and open my laptop. It's become a habit. Every month, I update the Excel file tracking the money I've sent home. I started it as a way to budget, but now it feels like a record of every sacrifice, every overtime shift, every skipped movie night, every time I bought generic instead of brand name. $400 in January for the heating oil. $200 in March for Madison's website that never launched. $350 in May for Dad's car repair. Row after row, year after year. I do the math, almost $8,000 since last year alone. My chest tightens. I wonder, for the first time, if they even remember. A new notification pops up, Madison's latest Instagram story. She's at a sunlit brunch, stacks of pancakes and avocado toast, surrounded by friends. Treat yourself day. The caption reads, a little heart drawn in the corner. I scroll through her photos, shopping bags, new winter coat, pumpkin spice latte. There's no mention of anxiety or struggle. Just a curated feed of comfort. I close the app and stare out at the swirling snow. The city feels far away, the world inside my apartment even farther. I let my mind drift back to last Thanksgiving. I see myself at the table, hands dusted with flour from making Mom's pie crust, listening as Madison explained her latest business idea. Dad nodded along, Mom smiled, and I was the one who ran to the store when we ran out of milk, the one who fixed the fuse box when the lights flickered. Responsible Olivia, they'd called me, like it was a badge or a burden. I remember washing dishes alone that night, laughter spilling in from the living room, and thinking how strange it was to feel invisible in your own home. I tried to tell myself it was love. That someday it would feel like enough. The oven timer beeps, snapping me back. I pull out my frozen pizza, cut a crooked slice, and sit at the kitchen table with the laptop open. The cursor blinks on the heating bill website, the next automatic payment scheduled for next week. My finger hovers over the cancel button. I hesitate, my hands trembling. There's guilt, a familiar, deep ache, but there's something else, too. A tiny spark of defiance, a question rising up: if I stop, what happens? Will anyone notice me for who I am, not just what I give? The heater clicks on, a warm gust rushing through the vent. I close my eyes and breathe in the comfort. For the first time in a long while, I imagine what it might feel like to let go. The snow thickens outside, swirling against the glass, erasing the city lights. My finger still rests above the cancel button. I don't press it, not yet. But I don't close the window, either. Canceling the heating bill took less than a minute, but the guilt stayed, heavy as the thick snow piling up on my windowsill. My apartment felt especially warm that Friday, maybe because I kept turning up the little heater, maybe because I needed some proof I could make comfort for myself. For days, I'd circled the decision. Every night, I'd stand by the window with a mug of tea, thinking about my family huddled together in our old house, the way winter pressed into every crack. I kept hearing my mom's voice: "You're such a good daughter, Liv. I don't know what we'd do without you." I used to believe helping was the only way to stay connected. But sometimes, the lines you keep open turn into chains you can't see until you try to leave. That morning, I clicked cancel on the payment screen. The site barely made a fuss. Just a confirmation box, a cheery "service will end" pop-up. The moment was so small, it almost felt like nothing had changed. But afterward, I stood at the kitchen counter, feeling the air shift. I wasn't sure if it was relief or fear. Maybe both. Outside, the sky turned white. Minneapolis in mid-November meant blizzard warnings every other day, and this storm had arrived early, swirling through the streets and burying the city beneath a blanket of silence. I kept glancing at my phone, waiting for something to break the quiet: news from my parents, an alert, a sign that I'd made the right choice. The first message came from Mom just after noon. "Hey, Liv. The thermostat says 61. Is something wrong with the heating? Could you check it for me?" My thumb hovered over the screen. I thought about how many times I'd dropped everything to call the oil company, troubleshoot a broken furnace, or transfer money in the middle of the night. This time, I set my phone down and made myself a grilled cheese sandwich. I listened to the bread sizzling in the pan, tried to focus on the smell of melting cheddar, the sound of soup bubbling on the stove. Comfort food, my way of drawing a line between worry and peace, even if it only lasted a few minutes. I sat at the table with my lunch, staring out at the swirling snow. The city seemed to hold its breath. Madison's text arrived before I'd finished my first bite. "What did you do, Liv? Mom says the heater's off. Are you seriously going to let us freeze?" A second one followed before I could respond. "You're so selfish. You act like you're better than us just because you pay bills. Newsflash, you're not." I didn't reply. I set my phone aside and watched flakes whip past the glass, trying not to think about all the times I'd fixed things quietly, hoping for a thank you that never really came. An hour later, the heating company called. The rep's voice was brisk but polite. "Hi, is this Olivia Bennett? Just confirming cancellation of service for 1227, Ashwood Avenue." I told her yes, and she asked if I'd like to take a quick survey about customer satisfaction. The question caught me off guard. Was I satisfied? I said no, then hung up before she could ask why. That afternoon, I tried to meditate, something Tracy had recommended for stress. I closed my eyes and listened to the wind against the building, focused on my breathing, let each exhale count as proof I was still here, still okay. But my mind circled the same old paths: Mom in the kitchen, fingers red from the cold, Madison wrapped in a blanket, blaming the world for every discomfort, Dad fixing the old radio with a screwdriver, grumbling but refusing to admit he needed help. By dusk, the storm was howling. The city glowed faintly behind the snow, streetlights blurring into halos. I lit a candle, wrapped myself in a thick sweater, and poured another cup of tea. For a moment, my apartment felt like a refuge, a little island of warmth, untouched by old family scripts. But the peace was fragile. My phone buzzed again, this time with a voicemail from Dad. His voice was sharper than usual, tinged with something I couldn't name. "It's freezing here. The thermostat won't budge. If you know anything about this, Olivia, call us. This isn't funny." He paused, then added in a lower tone, "Your mom's worried. Madison's upset. I just want to know what's going on." I stood in the kitchen, mug in hand, heart pounding as the last words echoed in the room. I didn't call back. Instead, I sat by the window, listening to the storm, letting the weight of everything settle around me. I tried to focus on the things I could control, the warmth of my own space, the taste of soup, the quiet hum of the heater by my feet. But no matter how many times I breathed in, the anxiety wouldn't leave. I thought about boundaries, how everyone says you should set them, but nobody talks about what happens when they hold. How loneliness can slip in, even as you fight for your own peace. The snow kept falling, relentless and soft, and somewhere out there, my family was learning what it felt like to live without my quiet rescue. I wondered if they would ever see me, not as a safety net, but as a person, with needs and limits of my own. The storm deepened outside, and the night pressed in, but my little apartment stayed bright. I let myself hope, just a little, that maybe this was the start of something new, a season where I could choose myself, even if it hurt. No one in my family ever calls just to say thank you. It's always when something's broken, a heater that won't turn on, a savings account running low, a promise left dangling like a strand of Christmas lights in March. It's late November now. Thanksgiving is less than a week away, but the only holiday spirit in my apartment comes from a half-finished grocery list and a banana bread cooling on the counter. Outside, the wind blows sharp and icy, and the forecast warns of another blizzard heading straight for Minneapolis. I keep my phone face down as I tidy up, refusing to look at the missed calls stacking up on the lock screen. Dad's left 3 voicemails since sunrise, each one shorter and gruffer than the last. I finally listened to one while washing dishes, letting his words echo through the steam and soap bubbles. "Olivia, you need to pick up. It's getting worse here. The house is freezing. Your mom's worried. Madison's coughing. I don't know what happened with the oil, but this isn't right. Call me back." I set the phone aside, press my hands to the cool porcelain sink, and stare at my own reflection in the kitchen window. Sometimes, when the city goes quiet in a snowstorm, you can almost hear your doubts breathing beside you. Mom's texts come next, each more urgent than the last. "Honey, the thermostat says 54. We're using every blanket in the house." A few hours later. "Dad says it's not safe to run the oven for heat. Do you know who to call?" And then, simply, "It's so cold, Liv." I read her messages, but the words land differently now. I want to help, God, I do, but I also want them to notice what it costs me, to realize that help isn't just money, it's pieces of my peace I keep giving away. Madison's posts show up on my feed, little flashes of filtered reality. A photo of her wrapped in scarves and wool socks, mug in hand, the caption, "Our house is basically a freezer now. #thanks-a-lot." Another shows her bundled in the living room, piles of mismatched blankets behind her. No mention of the canceled payments, just a subtle thread of blame woven through every word. I head to the supermarket, needing eggs and distraction. The aisles are packed with families prepping for the holiday, kids arguing over pie filling, parents herding carts full of stuffing and cranberry sauce. For a moment, I let myself wish I belonged to one of those noisy, messy families where resentment never lingers longer than the last slice of pie. The checkout line crawls. I scroll through messages again. Tracy calls, her voice a bomb. "How's your week, Liv?" she asks, and when I hesitate, she adds, "No pressure to talk. Just wanted you to know I'm here if you need to yell or laugh or just sit quietly." I sigh, tension softening just a little. It's a blizzard of texts and guilt trips over here. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing the right thing. Maybe I should just fix it. Make the payments. Call the oil company. It'd be easier than this silence. Tracy pauses. "Easier for who?" she says gently. "You're not their only answer, Liv. You have a right to peace, too." I walk home with groceries, snowflakes dusting my hair. The sky has turned a strange yellow-gray, the streetlights flickering on even before dusk. Back in my apartment, I mash bananas for bread, letting the familiar rhythm calm my nerves. Baking always steadies me, the measured scoops of flour, the scrape of the spoon, the quiet promise that something warm will come out of the oven, even if the rest of my world feels cold. While the loaf rises, I scroll through my phone again. Madison's posted another story, her feet by the heater vent, the caption reading, "Might freeze to death before Thanksgiving, but at least my toes are cute." A small knot of anger twists inside me. For someone who always finds the light, she never seems to see mine. Dad leaves 2 more voicemails before sunset. "Olivia, this is serious. We need you to call back. The oil company won't talk to me because the account's in your name. Your mom can't sleep, Madison's blaming everyone. Please, call us." I listen, but I don't call. I place the banana bread on a rack to cool and breathe in the scent of cinnamon and butter. The silence in my apartment is thick as a wool blanket, comforting, but sometimes stifling. As night falls, the blizzard begins in earnest. The wind rattles the windows. I make tea, wrap myself in my softest sweater, and try to lose myself in a book, but every page blurs with worry. A new message from Mom appears, her voice trembling through the phone, "Your dad's sleeping in his coat. I can't feel my fingers. Can you please help us?" I hold the phone, thumb poised over the screen, the weight of her words settling into the room. No one ever calls just to say thank you. It's always when something's broken, and this time I'm not sure I can fix it. Thanksgiving morning arrives without fanfare. No clatter of suitcases in the hallway, no scent of roasting turkey drifting from the kitchen. Just the gentle hum of my apartment heater, the soft, steady sound of snow falling outside, and the rich warmth of coffee and cinnamon swirling in the air. I pour myself a cup, slice an orange, and drop 2 slices of bread in the toaster. The room glows with pale morning light, catching dust motes as they dance above my thrift store table. I sit quietly, letting the stillness settle. It's strange, peaceful, but edged with something sharp. Loss, maybe. Or just a different kind of gratitude. Last year, I would have given anything to be at that old dining table, squeezing between Dad's armchair and Madison's endless stream of stories. I fought for a place at the holiday, determined not to be the one left out. This year, I'm fighting for something else, my own peace. I glance at my phone. Tracy's already sent a text. "Happy Thanksgiving, Liv. If you need a friend, I'm just a call away. You deserve a little kindness today." I send back a simple thank you, feeling a warmth that has nothing to do with coffee. Mom's call comes through just after, her voice tired, words muffled by static. "Happy Thanksgiving, sweetheart," she says. I hope you're doing something nice for yourself. I tell her I am. She hesitates, maybe wanting to say more, maybe just listening for a tremor in my voice. But I keep it steady. She doesn't mention Dad, or Madison, or the cold in their house. We hang up, and I know she won't call again. I move through my morning slowly. I eat toast and orange slices, turn on a documentary I've already seen 3 times, and pretend it's just another Thursday. I try not to think of the clatter of silverware at home, the sound of Dad's football game echoing from the living room, or the way Mom would hum as she basted the turkey. I try not to remember Madison's loud laughter, or the way I used to watch the snow from the upstairs window, hoping for some sign I belonged there. I'm rinsing my mug when the doorbell rings. The sound is jarring, sharp and insistent, nothing like the gentle quiet I've made for myself. My heart jumps. For a moment, I consider not answering. But the bell rings again, and I cross the room, peeking through the peephole. Dad stands in the hallway, bundled in his heavy winter coat, cheeks flushed and eyes hard. He looks older, worn thin by the cold, or maybe by something deeper. I open the door just enough to feel the chill from the hallway rush in. "Olivia," he says, his voice low. "We need to talk." I step back, but don't invite him in. He hesitates, glancing at the warmth behind me. "It's freezing at home. Your mom's sick, Madison's locked herself in her room, and he shakes his head. We can't go on like this. You canceled the heating, didn't you?" I hold his gaze. "I stopped paying." "That's different." He bristles. "You know we're not good with all this online stuff. The contract was under your name. They never warned us." I swallow. "I managed everything for 2 years. Over $8,000, Dad. And then I was told to stay away from Thanksgiving. So I did. I'm done being the one who keeps things running while everyone pretends I'm not there." He scowls, rubbing his hands together. "You're punishing us. All of us. Over one conversation?" "It's not punishment," I say, my voice soft but unyielding. "It's boundaries. You told me to stay away for Madison's sake. So I'm doing what you asked." He looks past me, into my little apartment, the tidy kitchen, the lamp throwing a warm glow, the simple breakfast still on the table. Maybe he sees how well I'm doing, or maybe he just sees the space he's no longer invited into. His voice drops. "We've sold almost everything worth selling. Your mom's not well. Madison's barely speaking. I don't know what else to do." I take a shaky breath. "You can start by understanding I'm not just a wallet, Dad. I'm your daughter. I deserve more than being asked for help and then told I'm too much." He looks at me for a long moment, words caught somewhere he can't quite reach. Then, quietly, he turns away. His footsteps fade down the hall, muffled by layers of snow boots and regret. I close the door, the click of the lock impossibly loud. My heart hammers in my chest, fear, relief, and a new strength all tangled together. I lean against the door, letting the silence flood back in, letting myself feel what I need to feel. The rest of the day passes in fragments. I read a little, write a line or two in my journal, watch the shadows shift across the walls. Every so often, I wonder if I've lost them forever, or if this is just the beginning of something truer. As night falls, the snow outside softens the city's edges. I settle into my favorite chair by the window, coffee in hand, watching the world turn silver and quiet. There's no turkey, no laughter, no family gathered around a table. Just me, holding on to the fragile, growing certainty that choosing myself isn't selfish after all. The silence after my father's visit settles over me like the heavy snow on the rooftops outside. It's deeper than I imagined, thicker than any blanket, lonelier than any quiet I've known. For the first time in years, Thanksgiving weekend is just another stretch of empty days, each one longer than the last. Saturday dawns gray and muted. I wake early, the city outside my window muffled by drifts of white. No family group chat buzzing, no list of errands to run for anyone but myself. The emptiness is jarring, and for a while I just sit at the kitchen table, turning a mug of coffee in my hands, listening to the radiator hum. I try to fill the hours. I bake blueberry muffins, the scent sweetening the whole apartment. I find my old knitting needles at the back of a drawer and try to remember how to cast on stitches. It comes back in slow, uneven rows, my hands clumsy at first, but I keep at it, letting the quiet repetition settle my nerves. Around noon, Tracy calls. "Hey, Liv. I'm going stir crazy in here. Want to meet up for coffee?" I hesitate, a part of me wants to curl up and disappear, but her voice is warm, steady, the kind you want to follow out of a cold house. I pull on boots and a scarf and meet her at the cafe on Lake Street, the windows fogged from the steam and the chatter of customers. We sit by the window, hands wrapped around mugs, watching the city move slowly past. Tracy asks how I'm really doing, and for once, I tell her the truth. It hurts, I say. But there's also relief. I keep waiting for the guilt to swallow me, but it hasn't. She smiles. You don't have to carry everyone, you know. Sometimes letting go is how you heal. We talk about books, favorite old movies, even bad reality TV. She laughs, and the sound makes the air lighter. Afterwards, I stop by the used bookstore next door. The owner, Mr. Jacobs, remembers me. Haven't seen you in a while, Olivia. Weather keeping you in? I nod. Trying to stay busy. He helps me pick out a mystery novel, something with a cozy cover and a plot that promises everything will tie up in the end. Back home, I spend the afternoon journaling. I write about the last few weeks, about the conversation at my door, about the ache of old traditions breaking apart. My handwriting is uneven, sentences trailing off, but it feels good to let it out somewhere private, somewhere no one else can judge. Madison's silence is louder than anything. For days, she sends only the occasional text, nothing more than a meme, a forwarded joke, a quick thumbs up to a comment I leave. But then, late Sunday night, she posts on Instagram. Staying at a friend's place. Not coming home for a while. Sometimes you have to protect your energy. The photo is a shot of someone else's apartment, fairy lights strung across a window, mugs of cocoa on a coffee table. There's no mention of me or mom or dad, just a caption that almost sounds like freedom. I stare at the post, feeling a tangled mess of sadness and relief. Madison is safe, at least. She's found somewhere warm to land, and maybe, just maybe, she's learning what it means to set her own boundaries. For a moment, I wish things could be easier between us, but I know some things have to thaw on their own. The house back home sits quiet in my memories, frost on the windows, kitchen dark, laughter only echoing in old rooms. Sometimes, I wonder if I did the right thing, if the peace I'm fighting for is worth the emptiness. But Tracy's words stay with me, sometimes letting go is how you heal. By Monday, I decide to put myself first, just for a little while. I turn off notifications for the family group chat, block repeated calls, and set my phone to do not disturb. The quiet is a little frightening at first, but there's also a thrill, like I'm standing at the edge of something new. I read in bed, letting the pages blur until sleep comes. I knit another uneven row, burn a batch of muffins, and laugh at myself for caring. I journal every day, letting my thoughts unravel onto the page. Just before bed, my phone lights up with a new voicemail. It's from Mom. The preview shows only a single line, "Olivia, it's me." Her voice is quiet, trembling, softer than I remember. My heart beats faster, torn between the urge to listen and the urge to hold on to the quiet I've carved out. I set the phone down, stare out at the snow-covered city, and let the silence fill the room. For the first time, it doesn't feel quite so empty. Hearing Mom's voice on my phone almost makes me want to turn back. Almost. But I don't. Her message is gentle, tinged with worry and resignation. "Olivia, it's me. The house is down to 45. Your dad won't say it, but he's been coughing all night, and we can't afford another delivery. Madison's staying with friends. I don't know what else to do. If you can call, please do. I miss you. Love you." The silence after her words is thick and heavy. I replay it once, just to be sure I didn't miss a plea, a hint of anger, any sign she's still angry. But it's only worry. And exhaustion. The first week of December, Minneapolis forgets how to be anything but cold. My windows are frosted every morning, breath hangs in the air, and the city seems to shrink inside itself. I warm up leftover mac and cheese for breakfast, stirring it in a pot on the stove, letting the simple comfort fill the room. Sometimes silence is the only answer left. I glance at my phone, see a missed call from Dad. I don't pick up. His message comes minutes later, his voice sharp and thinner than I remember. "Olivia. Look, your mom's sick. The pipes are going to freeze. I've tried everything, but we're out of options. I know you're mad, but this is your family. We need you." He doesn't say I'm sorry. He doesn't ask if I'm okay. Just another request, another demand hidden in the language of love. Outside, the neighborhood is bright with Christmas lights, strings of red and green, glowing reindeer on stoops. I bundle up and walk to the cafe, hoping a change of scenery might quiet the noise in my head. Inside, the windows are fogged, the tables crowded with students and couples. I order a peppermint mocha, claim a seat by the radiator, and pull out a stack of blank holiday cards. I try to write. "Wishing you warmth this winter," my pen falters. The words feel empty. How do you wish comfort to people who only remember you when they're cold? Tracy's text appears. "You okay, Liv? Need company or a pep talk?" I text back, "Just needed to get out of the house." She answers almost instantly. "Remember, you're not wrong for holding your line. People can learn to take care of themselves. It's not cruel. It's survival." I stare at her message, hands wrapped tight around my cup. For a long time, I thought love meant never letting go, no matter how much it hurt, no matter how tired I became. But now, with each hour of silence, I start to believe boundaries can be a gift, too. I watch snow pile on the patio tables outside. Little kids in puffy coats run past, laughing, cheeks pink with cold. A couple at the counter shares a plate of pastries, their hands nearly touching. I feel both apart and at peace, a guest in someone else's holiday. Later, back in my apartment, I scroll through old payment reminders, Dad's oil bill, Mom's prescription, Madison's car payment. Each one is a history of a rescue, a reminder of all the ways I've stretched myself thin to hold everyone else together. One by one, I delete them. My thumb hovers for a moment each time, but then I swipe left. Delete. 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 It's strange, how quickly a habit can disappear, how light my phone suddenly feels in my hand. Evening settles in, blue and shimmering with the reflections of Christmas lights through the frost. I spoon the last of the mac and cheese into a bowl, curl up in my chair, and try to read, but my mind wanders. A new email arrives, subject line, charming 3-bedroom home, Ashwood Avenue. My heart skips. I open the listing, and there it is, a familiar porch, chipped white paint, the old maple tree out front. My childhood home. The price is higher than I'd expect, but the rooms look smaller, emptier. There's a photo of the kitchen, Mom's faded curtains still in the window. A lump rises in my throat. So, they're selling. The house that was too cold to live in has become too costly to keep. I close the email and set my phone aside. My apartment feels even smaller, but not in a bad way. The world outside is still frozen, still a little out of reach, but I'm here, warm, safe, and finally learning what it means to take care of myself, even as the past gets swept away like snow from the doorstep. It's a lesson I keep learning this December as the world outside softens under a crust of snow. The city's dressed in holiday lights, garlands over storefronts, plastic reindeer standing sentinel on brown lawns, but none of it feels like mine. I walk to the corner every evening and watch families carrying bags of groceries and rolls of wrapping paper, laughter echoing off frosty sidewalks. My apartment is warm, filled with the scent of baked apples and cinnamon tea, but there's a quiet inside me that's new. It hums with both freedom and something like grief. All my life, the house on Ashwood Avenue was my anchor. It's where I first learned to read, where my birthday balloons bobbed against the kitchen ceiling, where every Christmas morning meant flannel pajamas and the crackle of wrapping paper. Now, it's just another listing on a website. I see the photos when I check my email, a real estate ad, cheerful and sterile, promising endless potential and old-world charm. The living room looks smaller on screen. The kitchen, where Mom used to tape up my report cards and Madison's finger paintings, is empty except for sunlight on the linoleum. Some days, I walk past the old place on my way home. The windows are dark, the porch swept clean, the for sale sign tipped by the wind. I stand on the sidewalk and remember the way the house glowed on December nights, full of music and the smell of cookies, the clatter of dishes and my dad's voice rising over football games. This year, the only sound is the hiss of passing tires and the distant whine of a snowblower. Tracy meets me at a cafe near the old neighborhood. She wraps me in a hug, dusting snow from her scarf. "How are you holding up?" she asks as we settle into a booth, hands wrapped around mugs of chai. "I keep thinking about how different it all looks," I say. "I always believed the house would be there, no matter what happened. But now it's just gone." She listens, really listens, then shares her own story, her dad selling the family farm after her mom died, the heartbreak of seeing strangers move in. "It's hard," she says. "But sometimes losing a place is what lets you build something new." Doesn't make it less sad, though. Her words land gently. I sip my tea and let the sadness come. Back at home that night, I check my email again. There's a new message from Mom, no greeting, no closing, just a single line. "We're selling the house." "I'm sorry." I stare at the screen, reading the words over and over. There's no explanation, no request, no mention of Christmas or what comes next. Just a tiny confession, "I'm sorry," slipping between the cracks. The tears surprise me. They come slowly at first, then all at once. I let them. I cry for the kitchen windows painted with snowflakes, for the ancient pine tree in the backyard, for every year I tried to be enough. I cry for what I couldn't fix, for what I let go, for the little girl who always thought home was a place you could return to. When the tears stop, I feel lighter. My apartment is quiet, just the glow of string lights and the gentle purr of the heater. The city outside is alive with holiday cheer, carols from a distant church, neighbors scraping ice from windshields, someone shouting "Merry Christmas" into the wind. For the first time, the noise doesn't hurt. I'm still here, and the world goes on. Later, Tracy calls again. I know it's last minute, but my family always sets an extra place at Christmas. You'd be more than welcome. Her invitation floats in the air between us, soft, real, unforced. I almost say no, out of habit, but I catch myself. Maybe I'll come by, I say quietly. Thank you, Tracy. Really? I set down the phone and look out the window. Minneapolis is lit up, each street shining against the dark, and for a moment, I let myself believe there's room for new traditions, new warmth, even when the old anchors are gone. The sky is slate gray on Christmas Eve, heavy with clouds and the promise of another snowstorm. My apartment is still and quiet except for the gentle click of my oven timer and the distant hum of holiday music leaking in from a neighbor's radio. For the first time, I'm not packing bags or making lists for anyone but myself. Instead, I measure flour and sugar, chop walnuts for cookies, and try to push away the ache of missing what used to be. I almost text Tracy to say I can't make it, but her last message, "We'd love to have you, no pressure," reminds me that sometimes warmth finds you only if you open the door a little. So I wrap up a tin of cookies, pull on my favorite sweater, and step out into the gently falling snow. Minneapolis is hushed under a fresh blanket of white, holiday lights glowing through the dusk. I take my time walking the few blocks to Tracy's apartment, the tin warm in my hands and a knot of nerves in my stomach. Tracy's place is already buzzing when I arrive, her partner greeting me at the door with a cheery welcome in, and the smells of cider, pine, and roasting vegetables drifting from the kitchen. Laughter rises from the living room where friends are gathering around a puzzle and bowls of peppermint popcorn. Tracy appears, grinning, and takes my coat. "You made it," she says, giving me a quick, tight hug. "And you brought cookies. You're already everyone's favorite." At first, I hover near the kitchen, unsure of where to fit in. The other guests chat easily, swapping stories about work, college, favorite old holiday movies. But as the hours pass, the awkwardness softens. Someone pours me hot cider and introduces me to a little holiday trivia game. Tracy's partner offers up her best ugly sweater for laughs, and I end up wearing it, red and green, decorated with tiny bells that jingle every time I move. Laughter comes easier than I expected. Dinner is potluck style, creamy mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, plates of cookies and pie. I find myself sharing stories, even laughing, letting the warmth seep into places that have felt empty for far too long. Tracy hands me a small, carefully wrapped box as the music changes to an old Bing Crosby tune. "It's just something small," she says, her eyes kind. Inside is a journal, navy blue, soft leather, a gold pen clipped to the cover. On the first page she's written, "For the next chapter. You deserve good stories, Liv." Tears prick my eyes. It's not about the journal, it's about being seen, being thought of, being welcomed for no reason other than who I am right now. As the snow thickens outside, I curl up on the sofa between Tracy and her friends, the lights from the tree casting soft colors across the room. For the first time in years, I feel what I used to only pretend at family holidays, a sense of belonging, the gentle comfort of being held in a circle of warmth, laughter, and new beginnings. We play board games, share Christmas memories, and pass around mugs of cocoa. Midnight comes quietly, with soft goodbyes and hugs all around. Tracy's partner insists I take home leftovers, tucking pie and cookies into a bag with a smile. Back at my apartment, I place the journal on my nightstand and watch the snow swirl past my window. I sit in the quiet, feeling a contentment I never expected. I check my phone before bed, one unread message. "It's from Mom, I'd like to see you. If you're willing." I stare at her words, emotions tumbling, fear, hope, uncertainty. The silence between us has stretched for so long, I'm not sure what to do next. But as I hold the journal in my lap and listen to the hush of Christmas settling over the city, I realize that, maybe, there's room for both new beginnings and honest endings. I almost don't answer the door when I see her through the peephole. For a long moment, I just watch her standing there, shoulders hunched against the cold, scarf pulled tight, snow melting into the gray wool of her coat. Mom looks older than I remember, her hair streaked with silver, one gloved hand gripping the strap of an old handbag she's had for years. My heart pounds, torn between wanting to let her in and wanting to disappear. Tracy had called earlier, her voice gentle as always. Whatever happens, Liv, it's okay to keep your distance. Or open the door. It's your choice. So I take a breath and turn the lock. The cold sweeps in as I open the door. Mom's eyes search my face, uncertain, hopeful, and I realize she isn't sure I'll even let her in. I nod silently, and she steps inside, stamping snow from her boots. We don't hug. I just offer her a seat at the kitchen table, where the kettle is already whistling. We sit in silence for a while, listening to the clink of mugs and the wind rattling the windows. She wraps her hands around her tea, staring at the steam as if searching for the right words. I thought about not coming, she says finally, voice soft, but there's too much I never said. I nod, but say nothing. She looks up, her eyes rimmed red. I'm sorry, Olivia. I really am. For all the years I let you carry more than your share, for every time I stayed quiet when you were left out. For letting things get so cold, at home, and between us. My throat tightens. I stir my tea, watching the swirl of milk dissolve. I wish I'd stood up for you more, she goes on, tears now shining. I thought I was keeping peace, but all I did was make you invisible. I know I can't take it back. I can't change what Madison or your dad did, but I need you to know I regret it all. I regret not seeing you sooner. The words land softly, like the snow outside, layering over old hurts, not erasing them, but dulling the sharpness. I meet her eyes, searching for something honest. I don't know how to forgive all of it, I admit quietly. It's hard to forget how alone I felt. I needed you, Mom. And I can't pretend I didn't change because of it. She nods, tears slipping down her cheeks. You don't have to forgive me. You don't even have to let me back in. She stops, steadying her breath. You have every right to step away, Olivia. You deserved so much better. I'm grateful for everything you did, and I'm sorry it took losing so much for me to see it. A long silence settles between us. The tea grows cold. Outside, the snow falls heavier, blurring the world beyond my small window. We don't say much after that. She finishes her tea, sets the mug down carefully, as if it might break. I walk her to the door, heart heavy but not angry. There are no grand reconciliations, just a quiet understanding, an old wound, finally named. At the threshold, Mom hesitates. She pulls her scarf tighter, eyes shining. You matter to me, Olivia, she says, her voice shaking. Even if I never said it enough. I nod, unable to speak. She steps into the hall, the cold closing behind her. I stand in the doorway a moment longer, breathing in the silence she leaves. Back inside, I clear the mugs and sit by the window, watching the snow gather in soft drifts along the sill. The world is still, wrapped in white, and I feel something shift inside, a weight easing, not gone, but lighter than before. I watch the city wake beneath a pale sky, snow piled high on every rooftop, sunlight turning the icicles to crystal. There are no resolutions written on sticky notes this year, no desperate hope that things will finally go back to the way they were. I don't want that anymore. This winter, I'm finally warm, on my own terms. January in Minneapolis is all hush and glow. My apartment, once only a place to sleep and recover, now feels like a home I built stitch by stitch. There's oatmeal bubbling on the stove, a bowl of blood oranges bright on the counter, and the familiar scent of good coffee filling the air. Some mornings, I sit at the kitchen table in my old robe, just watching the sun rise. The quiet doesn't feel empty anymore. Instead, it's a gentle pause, a space to remember all the small ways I've learned to take care of myself. Work is steady, boxes and paperwork and greetings at the loading dock. I come home in the early dark, make soup or toast or pasta, read a few chapters of a library novel, sometimes write in the blue journal Tracy gave me. I don't rush. I don't need to fill every silence. Tracy calls at least once a week. Her laughter brightens even the grayest afternoon. Last night, she proposed a girls' trip in the spring, just a long weekend somewhere warm. The thought of planning for something that's only mine, with no strings attached, fills me with a quiet excitement. We talk about recipes, movies, dreams that have nothing to do with what we've lost. Tracy reminds me, just by being there, that new beginnings can feel soft and slow, not all at once. Every now and then, a memory floats in, a holiday at the old house, Madison's voice loud over the kitchen radio, Dad's hand steady as he carved the turkey, Mom humming with the oven open. I let the memories pass without chasing them. I don't flinch when I see Madison's latest post, looking for a roommate. New year, new start. She looks different, older, maybe, or just finally facing her own growing pains. I don't reply, but I wish her well. Sometimes Mom sends a photo from wherever she's staying now, a street market, a sunrise, a thrifted mug of tea. Her messages are short, soft around the edges. There's no blame, just the simple news of her days. I realize now, sitting here, that I no longer need to chase their approval. I don't need to fix what I didn't break. I can love my family, hope for their happiness, and still keep my peace. Family is a word that shifts and softens as you get older. Sometimes it's the people you're born to. Sometimes it's the ones you meet along the way, the ones who see you and stay. The real turning point isn't dramatic. It's the first morning I look in the mirror and see only myself, tired, a little wiser, and still standing. On the last Sunday before work picks up again, I call Tracy and we plan our trip in earnest. I browse maps, choose dates, laugh at our imagined adventures. It feels good to look forward, to trust that more good days are coming. Before bed, I stand by the window, a mug of coffee warming my hands. The city outside is soft with snow, but the sunrise is clear and gold. I breathe in, slow and full, letting the light fill the corners of my home. Whatever comes next, whatever changes, whatever new quiets or storms, I know I'll be ready. Looking back on this winter, I realize the true warmth I found wasn't from a heater or a family gathering, but from the quiet courage to care for myself. Sometimes, the hardest lessons are about letting go, so we can finally grow into our own peace and kindness. In the end, family isn't just about who raised us, but also about the boundaries and love we learn to give and to receive. If my story resonates with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts or a memory about choosing your own peace. After all, life is richer when we share our journeys together, even in the smallest ways.